right, welcome to the On My Block podcast. Your host, Packers all-time leading rusher Amon Green. I'm one of his humble henchmen, Mike Wall.
Right there.
There you are. Amon, how are you today?
I'm good, man. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good, brother. So we got a couple things to talk about here. The Bengals are having a joint practice with the Green Bay Packers. We'll get into that a little bit later because you and I never got to the joy. At least I didn't get to experience the joy of a joint practice. At least as a player, I had to do it as a coach a couple times.
Did we do Buffalo? Oh no, was that?
No, that was what. So Bill Belichick figured this cheat code out a couple years after I left Green Bay.
Oh, okay.
He figured out he could get live drills with his team versus another team because he didn't like the preseason, the way it was playing out. It's even more relevant now, obviously. But before we get into that, BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, esports, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting your favorite casino and card games, available to play right from your phone. So head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get into the action. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, Amon, where the game starts. And like we were just talking about, like I never had joint practices. So maybe did you have a couple?
I had. So after you left, I didn't realize you were gone, man.
Thank
you. Buffalo. I figured you were there taking guys heads off, because I know playing against other players, they came to us for preseason, and then they stayed that week though. So that might have been.
Was that your second time with the Packers though? Maybe because it was. I feel like that didn't happen until later on.
No, it was. This was.
If that was 2005, it sure as hell didn't help you guys.
You know what? It was either it was 4 or I thought it was 02.
It definitely wasn't 4 or 02, bro. I was there.
Okay, I know. That's why I'm like, wait a minute.
I don't remember. I think. Listen, I think that you're having fond memories of something that didn't happen on the same timeline because I'm pretty sure we could go check, but I'm pretty sure that
we had.
I know I never had one, and I'm pretty sure that they didn't even become in vogue. I'm 99% sure that Bill Belichick's the guy who got this all started.
So I had one in Green Bay. It was the Bills, or no?
Oh, here we go.
It was Bills. It was
the Bills. And then it was the Chicago Bills. Yeah.
And then when I went to Houston, we did the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an easy drive, 8 hours to New Orleans, and then I think that's it. So I had 2 joint practices in my career. So and it was interesting. I'll say the least.
So Ja'Marr Chase, and they've kind of evolved, right? And it's really the joint practice is really kind of a proxy.
And I've done it as a coach in high school. We've done that with multiple high schools. So yeah.
So now on the West Coast, at least in high school, what they do is they have a camp and everybody will go to a certain place and just play live football the entire time.
That's what they did here in Wisconsin. It's called they did a jamboree.
Mm-hmm.
When I was coaching in Milwaukee at Oak Creek, and that jamboree, it was just basically scrimmages going on everywhere against. It was 12. We were 1 to 12 teams there at about 5 football fields, going on at the same time.
So Ja'Marr Chase came out and said, "Hey, listen," something to the effect of, "Hey, basically, I don't care if Joe Burrow plays until whenever he's ready because he's so valuable to their team."
Right.
But it does kind of. I don't know, maybe put a damper on when you get a joint practice and you practice against the Bengals. Now you got me saying it.
Yeah.
The Bengals are a good defense, no doubt about it.
Very good defense.
But the reason that you bring in the Bengals is because they're the
better team. They're a good team.
They have the 3 wide receivers and they have what I consider the second best quarterback in the league in Joe Burrow.
And they got good running backs. Mixon really good.
They got dudes. They've picked up offensive linemen over the last couple of years. They're still not very good at that position, but they're
slowly getting better.
But I guess it takes a little shine off it because Burrow won't be playing. You don't have that Burrow-Love comparison that wouldn't be fair to Love, but it would be interesting to see. I do have obviously when you talk about Jair Alexander and all these different guys that on defense that want to show out, it's like, well, I mean, listen, when Doug Peterson came into the game, we weren't like, oh, we're still, we still thought we were good, but we know we're not quite as good as we used to be, right?
Correct.
But if you're a head coach, how do you run this week? Like, what are the expectations? How do you want to run practices? Are you going to run them the same as you would run like your regular practices? Just integrate everything into the team. What do you tell your team before this? Because you're doing it to get these reps.
Right.
And maybe you're doing it like coaches are probably doing it to make sure they know everybody on other staffs in case they get fired. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, right? But what are you doing
all the
from a coaching
ongoings?
perspective?
So from a coaching perspective, it's simple. It's this. So first thing I would say to players, hey, I know it's a different day in terms of how the speed of practice goes, but protect yourself at all times 100%. Because we're dealing with unknown players. We don't usually practice with these players every day, every week for a season. So we don't know their pace. So regardless of what is said by me or Zach, when we get on the field, protect yourself. Be aware of yourself, how you run things when we do a drill, and then make sure to get the right instructions of how the drill goes. And then after that, from a game plan and for what I want to see from my player standpoint, I want to see, look, we're going against other good pros. Now it's another team, so that's a different mentality. So you do, I think as a player, I want to say approach this a little bit like a game, but also working on your technique, working on your skill, working on who you are at your position against another good player from the AFC. Now you're dealing with, you don't really know them because we don't play them a whole lot traditionally. So have that mindset going into every drill, even once we get down to like a 6-play scrimmage, 10-play scrimmage, same idea. We're trying to get better here. Don't and do your best. That's what I'll say to this: do your best not to take things personal when you get roughed up or they beat you on the play, and keep your mindset right. Keep it tight. So keep the fights down because we know we're going to have fights. It's at that time of training camp. Usually it's week 2 when the scuffles come around between linebackers and running backs. O-line, D-line starts to pop up. So that'll be my first talk to my whole team, and then obviously to certain positions out there on the field.
Yeah, I would just maybe even take it a step further and say, listen, guys, this is the new NFL. You guys, starters, you don't play in preseason.
Right.
And this is the time we're going to get reps. And I don't, tough bananas if you don't like it. And I'm just going to warn you right now, all of you who are playing should be going exactly as hard as you need to go so you will not lose a rep. 100%. And whatever that looks like, whatever you think that looks like against your player you're playing against, this would be 100% live to me, except for on the quarterback. If they say you're not attacking, if they say you're fed up, whatever, I would say the rest of you guys, offensive linemen, everybody, hey, we're going live here, man. And because I don't know, it's like when I'm doing an evaluation of a player, I can get a lot of information out of no padded practice if they're practicing fast. I can get more information out of a padded practice. I can get more information out of a game. So whatever intensity level you rise to is going to be correlated with the amount of information I as a development specialist, as the amount of information I can get and help you become a better player. Right. So if you're not trying, if you're going out there, especially against other people, and you're not trying to just be a dog, because you're really going to get what, AG? Like, let's say 18 total snaps.
In a whole full joint practice, yes.
Yeah, and this whole practice. I mean, talking about live reps, you might get, 6 here, 8 there, whatever, maybe a couple of one-on-ones, but you're not going to get that many. But the times that you have, hey, and usually you're going to get the play sheet, right, the night before.
Yep.
This is, hey, we're going to do 10 here, 10 here. There's going to be, 10 minutes of one-on-ones. There's going to be 2 move the ball periods. One's you're going to go twice. There's going to be a goal line stand or goal line plays on the second practice of the third day or whatever.
Yep.
And listen, when that it's called up, like, coach, if I got an air horn, like something different, I got to, start getting one of those little spinny things that makes funny sounds. Like, I got to put something out there. My guys know, like, okay, it's go time. We're going to show this to everybody, and everybody's going to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to go out there and make sure, like I said, you got to go 100% and, work your technique, work your skill, and make sure I say the biggest thing, protect yourself. I remember going back to that high school camp or jamboree, and I told all my running backs, I said, hey, like, first, this was an actual one where they came to us. And so the high school, it was just 2 high schools, Oak Creek, and I think it was Kenosha Bradford. They come in, and I was like, guys, listen, I know the head coaches already said their little speech, and we're in our one-on-one warm-up. I said, look, I know what coach said, but 9 times out of 10, those guys on defense, their team, they're going to come 100% full speed when that ball snaps. So what I'm saying to y'all, it might be thud, but take it. I want you to go in the mental as it's full contact going to the ground. So be ready. And sure enough, it was like the second play when the linebacker tried to tee off my running back. Thank God he remembered that and went into tackle well, went into the hit well, came out of it well. Scored a guy that had a nice 10-yard run after that. But after that, we took a little break, and he's like, "Coach, man, you were right." And I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "You don't know the unknown is other players' mindset, regardless of what a coach says. They're looking at opposite colored jerseys now.
Yeah, and
they're
it's
not
so
looking
easy
at the same color jersey.
And it's so easy for a defense to play fast. I mean,
Yes.
I think it's such like if you're going to look at either team at this stage, and the Bengals will be ahead because they've had the same system for a couple years now, but it's just so easy for a defense to go, okay, we're going to line up in our, our 4-3 defense. We're going to blah, blah, and we're just going to play fast. Oh, okay. Like, it's really not that hard.
No.
I mean, it's hard to be really good at something. I'm not minimizing the talent that they have, but I think just defensively, if you're like, first of all, even remember back when you were in high school, like the majority of dudes that are super violent like to play defense. I mean, that's where they start migrating to. I mean, you get the guys that are violent like to play offense end up in the college and the NFL, but like just in high school, you start cutting the herd. Like the toughest dude in your team is usually the middle linebacker. It's just how it is. So I think it'll be really good test, honestly, for the Packers offensive line because we haven't had Rashawn Gary playing against them.
Yeah.
And these guys got some dudes on. DJ Reader's a real bona fide star in this league. He doesn't get enough credit for being a great defensive tackle. Obviously, you've got Sam Hubbard as a team captain. But then Hendrickson, who I think they just signed Trey Hendrickson. They just signed another extension. Those two guys are really, really good. I think Zach Tom, if Josh gets out there, whoever, they're going to get some really good kind of feel for what level of play he's at because that dude, if it's Hubbard and he plays for those 18 snaps, he doesn't take a single play off. So I think that'll be a good matchup to see where Zach Tom is. I think the whole entire offensive line will have a good look. And I mean, listen, the fact that we're doing it instead of we talked about this last year, AG, is it better to go play in front of the stadium and get hyped for that whole thing and do the preseason thing versus this? Right. I personally think so. Like I would rather play a quarter there than have to go through these practices where I don't know really if is that what an angry coach is going to do. Right. Like I just picture John Fox being like, "Nah, I didn't like that today. Let's just run the whole practice again." And going like, "Well,
yeah, I've had a few."
You know what I mean? So
yes.
I'd rather do it that way. But the fact that they found this cheat code and to make sure these guys get some more live reps, you got to come out there ready to go.
Yeah, and I say the back end for the wide receivers, with facing Cam Taylor-Britt, who's a good safety there, our good corner, and Awuzie as well. Those young receivers still young, even though they got, Watson 2 years. This is his second year. Dobbs is his second year, but then you got them young. You got Reed that got drafted this year, and some other guys that just got to have reps and to have go against defensive backs that have been in the playoffs in the last 3 seasons. That's something they'll be able to face, and they take those experience and know I'll say that's gold right there. Because you're going against really cover good corners, cover DBs that know how to do their job.
Yeah, and obviously, they lost a couple of guys in that secondary in the Bengals, so it'll be good. This is one of those actually places where the Packers might be coming into this thing and they have they have some good matchups, especially with those two tight ends versus new safeties to the team, at least as far as being bona fide starters and stars. So it'll be fun to watch. Of course, I don't know how much we can see it. You start hearing about like the Packers streaming there was like a problem streaming the family night, and I'm not.
Oh, it was. I didn't know. Yeah, I was in the stadium, so I was able to see everything.
There's family night problem streaming, and they didn't want to give up advantages to this and that. Who knows? But part of family night is seeing what that team's going to look like for the first time. A lot of these guys haven't been in Lambeau Field or haven't played in front of that crowd, and as we know, 1265 Lombardi gets pretty busy during come family night time. It's a very unique environment. Like I was just watching a couple other, quote unquote fan fests and whatnot over the weekend. Some guys just do it at their practice fields and they just put, extra bleachers in. Some guys go to the stadium, but it's not filled up. I mean,
Philly, I think Philly went to the stadium.
Philly had 63,000 people. Wow. Like they did this thing. Philly, Green Bay. I mean, some people, the Bears didn't have very many people. Like it just depends how you market it. It depends if it's going to be free tickets or not. The Packers have always done a really good job. As much as we don't like as players family night because you're like, it just gives access. It's just, well, I guess now it's just like everybody else has 24/7 access and they can just a live tweet.
The whole family is out there on the field now. It's crazy.
But it's like family night is basically what I suppose for us is basically what every practice is now, where like you can get every media guy, every podcaster can just be out there with their, hey, I'm Twitter streaming and what's, how Amon Green carried the ball in his left hand and, blood stiff arm on his right. And he got a 2-yard gain. I thought he could have gotten 3.5, but, he doesn't look as tough as he usually, it's like, okay, So that used to be for us, but I suppose these guys are just old hat now, right?
Yeah, you're hitting it dead on the point. It's just for the fans and now for the players and their families, it's a whole thing. It's a big thing, bigger than what it was for us. And I was saying that sitting in the stands with my friends and explaining to them and their kids that were, they're little league football. But I'm telling you, okay, now they're doing first. This is actually regular season warm up where the kickers and the long snappers come out first, and then the kick returners and whoever else is a punt returner, they come out second. And then you got the running backs and then linebackers and then O-line, D-line, all from there. And then after that, pretty much everybody else comes out and then everybody goes one-on-ones. So you see, I'm just pointing at the field from where I was sitting in the stands and making sure they, and they kind of follow the ball real good. But for that, it was like this. After that, I was like, oh, it's just practice. Because they kept asking me, why is it, 8th period? I'm like, well, it's going to be at least 20, 30 periods, but they script them out, separate ways. So that's why it's not 4th quarter or 3rd quarter. No, it's period 9, period 10, stuff like that.
Like fans probably don't realize that like we don't know where to go and stretch. Like I don't know I don't know what yard marker I'm supposed to be on stretch. Like you have to practice. As stupid as it sounds, it's actually a part of practice and like part of the pregame stuff. Like, okay, well, where do I have to? I go to the end zone. Great. What end zone do I go on? Do you want me to start on the goal line or the end line? All these, like, how many lines do you want?
Because the coaches will yell at you. The coaches will yell at you.
You go through all this stuff and the thing is, if you just look like a mishmash, you probably aren't well coached. Like you're probably not a good team. That's not an ultimate truth, but if you see a way a team warms up, especially the National Football League, and if they warm up bad, you're really not expecting them to be very good. So it is kind of a big deal. Like how you do anything is how you do
organization. It's the epitome of organization. Now, if Matt LaFleur can't organize the 53 or now what 80 something players out there on the field until the cuts go down, you can't organize that amount of players to go simply do stretches, warm ups, and do your one-on-one warm up drills. Then it's a problem. But they look good. They came out uniform, did their warm ups. They're a lot more active now. They're doing all the dynamic warm up thing than we used to do.
Bloke and Gizzy's got them going. I'll tell you what. So this is why I would be a terrible head coach, because if you said to me like, "Hey, we got to spend 2 hours today, showing the DBs that they got to be on the 35-yard line going in on every 5," I'd just be like, I'm not even going to be there, guys. Like, you guys figure it out. I'd go to the head strength coach, be like, you forgot the stretch lines. I don't even want to, there's got to be something better I do with your time. But it is important. It matters. Like how you present yourself matters. That's why I would do all our stretching in the locker room and then just come out ready to go at the game day.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
So listen, Rob Demovsky, who you and I both know, Rob's been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. He works for ESPN now. He does like the little soundbite stuff. And Rob's a good dude. Listen, with all of these guys, we're always like, how much do you really know about what you know about, right? I mean, and I'm not dismissing the effort that he puts in. He's a professional, but it's like, do we see the game the same?
Oh, we see it a whole bunch. Definitely different.
So he made a couple statements that Jordan Love had like one good practice and everything else had been mediocre to poor.
Yeah.
And then this clown, I say clown not because he hasn't earned the right to say what he wants, but
correct.
But I don't know where he bases his information on. Adam Shine comes out and just says Love's terrible. I don't understand how you would get anything out of the first 2 weeks of preseason. And I know, like Adam Shine, he's doing it to get viewers and
likes and shares, retweets.
Yeah, but I'll say this: good for Devontae Campbell to just snap back at him immediately. Mm-hmm. Like, why do we care about this guy's opinion? I think he's wearing a Steve Harvey suit and some bifocals. And Shine is the guy.
Oh, that was a great comment right there. That's awesome.
He hosted. Inside the NFL, that's gone through a lot of iterations, but the proverbial "get off my lawn" Boomer Esiason and Phil Simms. Shine was part of that host group, way back when. So
I remember.
You kind of see where like it might come from. I guess the one thing I started thinking about maybe more so was, let's not talk about Love's performance until we get 6 games into the season and we just have some stuff to talk about. But knowing what we know about Aaron Rodgers, knowing what we know about his personality and how it's kind of not changed, but like how happy he is to be somewhere else, and he feels like he has weapons, and he feels good about everything.
Right.
And we lost Devontae Adams, and we know they haven't had a first-round wide receiver, and all these kind of things. Yeah. How do we feel, though, about Goody? I think he's been there, was this 4 years at general manager, 5 years general manager?
Five.
Okay, so in his coming his fifth year in general manager, like, what do we think about the job he's done surrounding Jordan Love with talent on this offense? Day one, week one, snap one of Jordan Love's. Now I'm the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers.
We both talked about it. The two tight ends, Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft coming in.
But unproven, right?
Right. Unproven talent, but at least you're giving the court, because as I remember I can't remember for how long, I always hear a commentator say, and I know it because I played the game, the tight end is the quarterback's safety net.
Yep.
Life preserver, whatever, how they would quote it. So that right there, just off of pure knowing football, at least giving your quarterback some tight ends. And we know we got the young crew. He's been around the young crew for a year, Jordan Love. So he's been around Watson. He's been around Romeo. He's had practice reps with them. And he does have some game reps. Just a few game reps here and there from last season and the season before. So, from a performance in practice, like I was mentioning to my friends I was sitting with, this is practice. So I say it was okay. You ain't got to go out there and die, blow people out of their seats. No, you're going out there to really, I say it was, to me, it almost looked like going through the motions because of the way the pace went. It was like for us, we know our tempo. We were always a fast clicking offense and when we're going in drills, but from them, it just more looked like they were just kind of going through the motions. Not, and I'm not judging him off of practice. This is his practice. And it's family night practice too on the top of
all but that's like almost it's not an indictment, but it's a commentary on how we practice.
Correct.
Like it's not a Jordan Love deal. It's like if you're sitting there as the Packers all-time leading rusher sitting in the stands and you're saying, "Well, this looks slow on family night."
Yes.
Then it was, well, A, it is slow.
It is.
And B, like I don't feel good about that because me personally, I feel like there's such an advantage to teams that can prepare where individuals.
I agree. I hear where you're
at. So that honestly, when I hear that, like that bothers me, not as a fan, but just as a Green Bay Packer, that bothers me.
You want things full speed because it's going to be full speed on Sunday.
Shit, AG, if we're going to be out there, like I'm always like this. Like you told me to put my pads and my helmet on, I'm going to play now. Like exactly. You know what I mean? If you're going to put me in this stuff, then let me hit somebody. Let me do something. I don't want don't put me in all this gear and I got to put on a special uniform and I got to do all this crap and I got to get my fingers taped. Don't have me do it to like stand over there and play patty cake.
Right.
I'm either here or I'm not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I saw some younger guys, like guys on defense. They were actually playing. You could tell they were playing at a higher tempo, and it was either some of the veterans and then some of the younger DBs back there making plays on the ball.
Good.
Coming out. And I saw that, and that's what I was that I was excited to see. I'm like, these guys are really pushing. I think they had a couple picks on. I think one on Jordan and one on Sean Clifford. He might have got it in there, or Etley. I think Etley got in there as well. So
let me ask you this. Knowing what you know, if you had an empty room, okay, we got to build out an offense.
Mm-hmm.
You got, I don't know, you got one draft pick in each 7 rounds of draft picks. And you got, a handful of free agents after that.
Mm-hmm.
And you got nothing. What are you doing?
What I'm doing is, go ahead.
Your defense is stacked. You just literally like, hey, this draft, we got to draft an entire offense. What are we doing? Or let me put a caveat. You can get 2 or 3. We'll just call them like not mid-level, but good, not elite starters in free agency to fill a couple spots. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. On offense. Well, definitely like with those free agents, that means age comes in. They have veteran leadership there, so I'm banking on that because I'm gonna build my team where. After I, rain down the rules and the guidelines, I want my locker room to govern itself, hold each other accountable. So that would be something I'll let them players know as they come in. Hey guys, we pitch you off for his agency. Thank you for being on the squad, but I need you to carry that locker room. I mean, as a coach, we know where our power goes and where it stops. Mm-hmm. I know I'm not naive to that, so I will let those older player, free agent agent player know that right away. And if I have, and then any guys that we get drafted, if they're I say seniors coming out, we might have a couple juniors here that we got drafted in certain positions in terms of O-line. Those are the guys I'm gonna lean on too. The big guys, because the big guys, offense, defensive fronts, those guys naturally kind of has a precedent in that area in the offensive side because of obviously working along with the quarterback, obviously, and moving people, and because that is where the quarterback and the running game start and stop. Any football player that knows a bit of football will know that first with the O-lineman. So having a center, having a guard that are I say confident enough to go out there year one, day one, and having to lead that team from up, making sure I start from there, from the offensive line on out, and then making sure having a quarterback of good quality and good confidence and good, I say, able to throw the routes that we're going to obviously work at. So understanding that, I say having the age is priority one, because then the experience can teach the youth how to do it the right way, and then it carries on from there.
Yeah, if you had two mid-level free agents you buy a center, and for me, you buy somebody in the wide receiver room, just because I think that's a lot to put on a bunch of rookies' plates. You want to get some talent in that room, but you also I always think of like Randy Moss comes in, he's got Chris Carter. I go, that was a pretty good deal.
Man, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was a pretty good deal. Yeah. Listen, you're going to draft a quarterback, you're going to draft a left tackle, you're going to draft a wide receiver if there's a talented one, and then you start going. The later, third, fourth round, I'm going to draft my running back. I'm going to draft the tight end. So then you just start backfilling. As the further along, you get some guards later on. The whole thing, you got to get a right tackle at some point. Yeah. But you got these like key positions, but the key positions to me are like. You're going to say quarterback, left tackle, maybe top flight wide receiver, but I'm thinking like that veteran center and that veteran dude, that Randall Cobb, who can come in and like help everybody learn. I think those guys are going to really put it together the right way. Of course, it just depends if, like, we'll see next year. I think there's 4 quarterbacks are supposed to go top 4. The first 4 guys drafted. So if there's those kind of guys like game changers, you got to get that one game changer on your team. Hopefully, it's at the quarterback or wide receiver position. Yeah, and then after that, it's like. I think we can, if with a good coaching staff, I still think this, man, if you have a really good coaching staff, it's good on development. Like you can get guys in different rounds. You can get TJ Lang, Josh Sitton. You can just find dudes who can play for a long time at a high level.
Yeah. And like, to your point, man, when you think about what we did, what you just said, and kind of what I added in there, you're kind of looking at Cincinnati. They had a coaching staff that was very young. You get Zach as the head coach, who had not much experience other than assistant, and within the first couple of years, he got that quarterback that you talked about. O-line, we knew a couple of years ago, O-line was not the place, but they somehow Joe Burrow, he did what he did. But he had Jamar Chase, he got Mixon, he had 85. I can't think of 85 right now. I had him on my fantasy team. Higgins. So had a mosh pit of those players, and then a ragtag of offensive linemen that are now figuring out, and then the defense, like you mentioned. So that's kind of like what we saw the last few years of Cincinnati, and then progressively getting better. So
I didn't ask this before, but because Zach, I mean, I know Zach, and I like Zach. Mm-hmm. You know Zach.
Oh yeah, I know Zach. Yeah.
Zach was the on the hottest hot seat list that you could find before Joe Burrow got there. He was going to get fired. The whole staff was going to get fired. Yes. It was just they thought they were going to get fired beforehand, and then he got hurt, and then they, for Joe to get hurt, and then they get Jamar Chase the next year, and all of a sudden they come together like this.
Yep.
You wonder what that team, as bad as their offensive line has been years ago, last year, they're not very good. You wonder what that team's like without Joe Burrow. I mean, I think now last year their defense was good. They just lost a couple key players, but their defense was good. But I look at that offense. I think Jamar Chase is amazing. T. Higgins to be possibly a number 1 on another team. Mm-hmm. I mean, Joe Mixon's a good running back. But I don't know if it's the style of play. I mean, listen, when Joe Burrow says stuff like, sometimes I'll just take a sack on third down because we're going to punt anyways. And I go, you have no idea the damage you're doing to your offensive line. It's like mental health. Like you have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But even with that, I mean, you're giving up 50 sacks a year or something. I just don't know how good you can really be. I'm just curious to see how good they really are if that guy's hurt for like 8 games out of the season. Like, do they win 2 games or do they win like 5? I really don't know.
I say having Trevor Siemian back there, they probably get at least 5.
Trevor Siemian for 5 games.
5 games.
I'm just telling you right now, Joe Burrow, you heard it on this show. If Joe Burrow ever gets hurt, I will bet AG anything he wants that they do at 8 games. They do not go 5-3. I'll bet you whatever with Trevor Siemian, the Bengals.
I ain't saying they go above 500, but I'll say they'll get 5 wins throughout a 17-game season.
17? I was talking about 8 games.
Oh,
yeah, okay, 17-game season. I'll say they'll get 5 wins. Yeah,
that's where I'm at.
Okay.
In 8 games, yeah, 8 games.
Yeah.
In 8 games, I give you 2. I'll say 2 wins in 8 games. 2 wins in 8 games with Trevor Siemian.
I was like, man, if you think they're going 5-3 with Trevor Siemian,
no, I mean, I forgot the 8-win part of it. I didn't hear that one.
Ravens, Steelers,
exactly. I know that division. That division is a problem.
Going to be real this year. Hey, so this is something that I think you and I have talked about offline before. So the Hall of Fame enshrinement ceremony is this weekend.
Some great speeches. Zach Thomas, awesome. Joe Thomas.
So Zach Thomas goes in. Rondé Barber goes in. Joe Thomas goes in.
DeMarcus Ware.
DeMarcus Ware goes in. So Deion Sanders.
Klecko from the Jets from the 80s. Klecko.
Deion Sanders said this a couple of years. He's been saying it a lot, actually. But he said it a couple of years ago. And he was basically saying, like, because of the format, you have to let people in. He said it's really not that it's not as special as it should be because they're letting dudes in instead of like the elite.
Correct.
And I'm not a Hall of Fame player, but I have played amongst guys like that, and I know in my generation, like I remember very specifically, Larry Allen was a game-changing football player.
Yes.
Larry, at the guard position, Larry Allen was so much better than everybody else in his prime that he was undoubtedly a Hall of Fame player.
He was scary.
Steve Hutchinson was a very, very good player. Like Steve Hutchinson was an elite-level player. He's not Larry Allen.
No.
But he's
he's good. He's good.
He was so good. He was a first-round pick. Yep. He was All-American in high school, All-American at Michigan. First round draft pick, all pro or whatever since day one. So so I go, okay, he's a Hall of Famer. But then there's other guys that get in, you go, like, I think Alan Faneca had a really good career. For me as a guard, I don't know. Like, did you say is he that much better for that much? I don't know. Joe Thomas was so good on a terrible team.
Yeah.
But he has that run of consecutive starts and plays and all. Like it's an interesting Rondé Barber. Rondé Barber had a great career, but now we're starting to look at like, okay, like who are the guys on the Tampa Bay defense? And again, this is no disrespect to anybody who's making it, right? It's just an interesting conversation.
Yeah,
but you start going like Warren Sapp's there, check. Warren Sapp's different.
Yeah.
Derek Brooks is there, check. He's different. Then you go like John Lynch is there. John Lynch is a really good football player.
He was a good football player.
Okay. Then Rondé Barber was there. Rondé Barber was a really good football player.
Yeah.
But, it's just it's interesting, right? It's not that I don't know what the criteria. I have no idea, right?
Yeah.
But I know Deion. Like the Deion thing always pops up, and I go, okay,
it
Deion,
makes sense.
Yeah, you get it because Deion's like best there ever was, right? So
yeah, and I think it boils down to. I think part of the problem is the networks. So when I say the networks, I mean all the commentators that have shows. We got Greeny with the Get Up. We got Stephen A. From football to basketball to baseball. Shoot, we got Women's World Cup, all that going on. What do they always say after the team wins a championship? Oh, so-and-so's a GOAT. So-and-so's a GOAT. So-and-so's the greatest of all. I'm like, that drives me nuts. And I think it drives you nuts too. I think that's part of the problem because soon as say Golden State a couple years ago, they lose it this year. is Stephen Curry the greatest of all time? I'm like, why are we having this conversation?
Good point.
You know, Kansas City wins the Super Bowl. Pat Mahomes second one. Andy Reid second one. You know, Pat Mahomes greatest. It's like y'all setting this up to have this problem right now because, like Deion, I agree with Deion because it's already a privilege in the NFL to be in the NFL to get drafted. We already know it is a privilege to be there, no matter which round you get drafted in. But then after a career, no matter how long it is, but then if you're that player in that range that we talk about for guys, and you mentioned yourself, players that you like and you see like, yes, no, not even a thought they should be in there. And it goes to when I was a kid growing up. I think of between guys like Walter Payton, Joe Montana, Lawrence Taylor, those type of guys where they changed the game. And then when you brought their name up in a conversation, you'd be like, oh, or the person you talking to, you'd be like, yeah, I know who you're talking about. You know, yeah, that's a very good exact. So those type of players, and so it's a whole bunch of little different things going on. The media, we already know they narrate a lot of stuff in all the sports out there, and so they like to put up the people and I say,
oh sure,
project who they feel, you know,
even all pro and all and Pro Bowl, like all that has
Yes.
to do. I mean, listen, even the way they vote, when you talk about like the fans and the media have 2/3 of the vote. Well, it's like the media influences the fans.
Yes.
The whole thing's crazy. I love the NFL's 100 list that the players do.
Yep, I do like
and
that.
I know that there's some times that you go like Aaron Donald's still the top 3 player in the league, and he didn't make top 3 this year. But it's like you kind of get what people are giving props to a guy who did that. Like I think we can all live with that.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many players vote in this Hall of Fame deal, and it's super interesting. Again, not to throw a shade on anybody. All these guys have better careers than I did. But all I'm saying is, I think if you ask players about certain guys, they either go like, oh, we game plan for him, like he was a game plan guy, or he wasn't. And honestly, if you weren't a game plan guy, like if you weren't a game plan guy in defense,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You're not a Hall of Famer. If you're not a game plan guy on offense, you're not a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'll never forget, like here's when I knew that I was not like when I got to year 5, 6, 7, I thought it was really I thought it was elite. Like I thought it was really, really good. I was playing high level.
Yeah, I thought you did.
I got over. I leave Green Bay and I finally get fan votes.
Mm-hmm.
So I go over to Hawaii. And I was playing right guard because Larry Allen was playing left guard. And Larry Allen's kind of over the hill at this point, but he's still Larry Allen.
He's still there. Right.
And so he's taking spots from guys that are playing well, but and at the time I'm like, dude, he's not playing that well. But we got down in our stances, and Sean Rogers, the Detroit Lions defensive tackle, said, all right, now, Larry, don't you hurt me. And they all started like, yeah, man, like you take it easy on us. And I was like, I didn't get it until then. I was like, oh, now I get it. Everyone's still scared of him.
Correct.
Like nobody's like people think I'm good. They're scared of Larry Allen. There's a huge difference there. Guys might think I'll pick him off a pile, or I might drive. They're scared that Larry Allen is going to put a hole in their chest and affect their ability to reproduce or something. You know what I mean? Like, that's when that's why I was like, I remember I went home and I went to the room and I just said to Trina, I just go, hey, take a good look around here because we're lucky to be. I used to think I belonged here. Now I'm not so sure. Like that.
No, you belong there.
People there are scared of that dude, though, and that's what a Hall of Famer is to me.
There is definitely a select few of defenders, offensive linemen, D linemen that they will probably put the fear in people's walking down the street. But no, you was one of those guys to me, bro. You definitely was.
I wasn't fishing for a compliment. I will take it, but my point, you understand my point.
Yeah, I understand your point.
John Randall were like, oh my God, John Randall. They literally called John Randall before I got to Green Bay. I remember the first year they're like, oh, we're throwing a hot off the 3 technique this week, and like they were like making the joke in the offensive lineman, and I'm like, that's not a funny joke. And they're like, no. Just did you watch last year's game against Minnesota? In Minnesota, it's like he was literally Brett was like 1, 2, 3, throw because he was getting tackled every play. It's just there's some guys not.
Yes, it's guys that are problems. I remember growing up as a kid, you watch game film of Ronnie Lott, hit dudes, from interceptions to then hitting guys over the middle. And then when I was a kid, I think it was when I was a kid, yeah, he cut his finger off to play in a game.
Oh.
I said, yeah, that's that dude.
Remember Ronnie Lott had those like wrestling like elbow pads that he wore? So
he had the big one. Yeah,
dude.
Yes,
that guy's one of the biggest savages ever.
Savage, when you cut a finger off. They said you're gonna miss a game, a playoff game. It was a playoff game too, and
he was if he cut his. The story is, I think he broke this.
He broke it right at the knuckle
on his hand. Yeah. So he just said it's at the top one. And he goes,
yeah.
He said,
right here.
They said if you knock it off, you're not playing in the playoffs of the Super Bowl. And they're like, or no, excuse me.
You said if you do surgery. If you
do surgery, you rehab. He goes, well, what happens if I just cut it off? Like, oh, he'll be ready in 7 weeks or whatever. Like, bet.
Cut it. I was like, that's my dude. That's why I like the 49ers. Guys like that. I was like, that's what
life was just different back then.
Right. And then, but also as a football player, as an athlete, that's when you knew the stakes were high, what you had to do to go out there and be intimidating, play ball. I remember, Brett said it too. He said my dad had to come on the field and carry me off when I knew I was done playing. I'm going to play hard all the way to it. So just one of those things.
I got one listener question for you. They're asking how much will the Penn State backup quarterback play in the preseason? And my guess, I'm just going to answer this real quick. My guess is Jordan Love's going to see some playing time this preseason. He sure is. He better, right?
Yeah. He's going to play. He's going to get some time. That's easy. Was it Clifford he had a good year. He had a couple good years at Penn State. So, no, he's going to get in there. Jordan Love's going to see it first game against Cincy. He's going to see that first series, and then he's going to be out.
That whole room's got to get figured out, really, right? And developed, right?
Yeah, the whole room. It's a lot of spots on that team, offensively and defensively. You got to find out. So this is a preseason game coming up where anybody that's going to be a first string starter week one, they're playing in that first drive. They're going to be in that first 10-play drive, whatever. There won't be nobody.
You think Bakhtiari sees the field this preseason?
Probably game 2.
Maybe.
I said if I'm betting game 2, definitely. It's only 3 now, so yeah.
Yeah, it's only 3. Here's the thing: is like because they're practicing against the Bengals before we move on here.
Yeah.
Jordan Love is not Joe Burrow. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not Justin Herbert. He's not Josh Allen. But you're talking about like what Goody's brought to the table.
Yeah.
He's got those 2 tight ends that might turn out to be something. He's got Christian Watson, who's going to his third, his second year. He proved last year at the end of the season like that he's going to be a dude.
He could be a problem.
He's got a great running back room. He's got a good left side of the offensive line, and they'll piece together a couple more things there. Hopefully, they'll be in a really good position that this guy doesn't have to carry the load. He can just come in and have a solid season to start. They can be effective. To me, he's set up for success.
Mm-hmm.
I think Goody's done a good job in that. From that standpoint, is if these guys at all pan out, and a lot of it comes down to coaching, like he doesn't have to do a hell of a lot to have a good offense.
No, he just gotta play within himself. I've heard Aaron in his few interviews talking about Jordan Love. It's like, hey man, go out there and have fun and do you. And I hope he hears that and really take that in, because that's where a lot of the pressure that you could feel going into Lambeau Field as any position starter, but especially the starting quarterback, it goes a lot easier when you don't think about the guys that was in front of you, which is only a few guys and the best guys. If you think about that, then you're going to be, almost, not I don't say sabotaging yourself, but you're going to make it rough. Go out there, have fun, be you, be the quarterback, be the player that got you drafted here to Green Bay. Basically.
The get off my lawn this week. We're gonna do
I saw this, man. I saw it. Yeah.
First of all, we had the Nate Diaz and the
Logan Paul.
Whatever.
It was Jake Paul.
Whatever one it was. Nate, this guy. First of all, he looks like a bona fide fighter now, but
yeah,
he never actually fights fighters that are like his size, which is like I don't understand how
he was 185 for this. He went down, I think.
Yeah, but okay, so Nate Diaz fights at like 145.
That's true. Oh, I didn't know that.
He had to gain a ton of weight to do this fight.
He did. Okay, I did see that in the write-up.
This guy's a absolute marketing genius. He's killing it.
That's the
fighting.
part
It's like fighting dudes would be like, do you want to fight Vladimir Klitschko? Hell no. He's a heavyweight. I don't want to fight him. but I'll fight Mighty Mouse over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like
I'll
the guy's a
fight
genius.
Nate Robinson.
But he does look like a legitimate boxer. I'll say
He
that.
does legit. No, for me, yeah, the last year he took it serious. He did some interviews, and in the interviews, he's talking about. He said, once I had my first couple of knockouts, I was just like, oh yeah, having fun.
Mm-hmm.
But then he said it to himself. He just took it up another notch. He just said, I started really going in and taking it more serious. Professional boxer coaches in him at his camp. So I have a little bit more respect for him for that side of it.
Oh, listen, he's the American dream. Honestly, I mean, you may not like what he's doing. It's got kids living the American dream. But better fight this weekend. White Sox Tim Anderson gets chin music, right? Ooh, knocked out by Guardians Jose Ramirez. Okay,
on his feet.
I mean, they're throwing. Ramirez has no idea that he even connected because
he didn't. Nope.
But I started thinking like, what are the best sports fights of our, at least that I can remember? And I think I got 5 of them, AG. I'll have you rank them, okay?
Okay. Okay.
All right. The first thing is, the Anderson, Jose Ramirez. Now, Anderson flips and goes southpaw, so he leaves his jaw exposed. Thought, so maybe he deserved what he got. I don't think he's a southpaw.
He didn't know. He didn't set his guard.
The number one thing for baseball for me is the Nolan Ryan, Robin Ventura. Nolan Ryan's pitching, and for people who don't know, Nolan Ryan was like 46 at the time.
Yeah, he was almost 50.
And I believe he was pitching like a 2-hitter or like a 2-hit shutout or something like that. It wasn't like he was, gave up 7 runs. He's like, screw it, I'm hitting Ventura right now. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
And then Nolan Ryan absolutely put him in his place.
No,
I mean, that was
first hit. It was the first swing. Connect.
He just remember he headlocked him and just started.
Yeah.
I mean, good Lord. So that's probably my favorite of all time. But these other ones, do you remember the Malice at the Palace when Ron Artest, Rasheed Wallace start going on it?
Yes.
Ron Artest does the Burt Reynolds, lays out on the
court,
podium, on the stand, lays out, and then the fans start throwing stuff at him. He's like, "Oh, let's get in the stands and make this real ugly, man. The ESPN doesn't have enough content tonight. Let's give them some more." No. Malice at the Palace was all time.
That was one of my number ones. But we'll keep it going.
The worst. Well, let's go to maybe the best fight of all time. Actually, just happened. Myles Garrett and Mason Rudolph square off.
Ooh, yes.
Myles Garrett takes the helmet and is swinging for the fences. So I forgot the other guy, but my man Marquise Pouncey comes over and just starts wailing on Myles Garrett, tries to kick him in there. I mean, it was so listen, it's not fun to. Myles Garrett's swinging a helmet. Myles Garrett's a scary dude without a helmet.
He's
swinging the dude. Like, you tell people, like, as a joke, like, boy, you keep talking, I'm gonna take that helmet off and beat you with it. He was like, well, that shit really happened in a game. Like, he really did that. That was the most nuts thing ever. And then I got one that is my go-to if I need a laugh, if I'm having a bad day.
Yeah,
I want to watch Alonzo Mourning square off with Larry Johnson while Jeff Van Gundy is hugging his leg like a koala on a tree.
I thought you about to
That was the saddest. That was the saddest because at the time, for you guys who don't know or are too young.
Yes, I know.
At the time, Larry Johnson, fresh off of UNLV, he's got the grandmama
he's a big
stuff.
Dude too.
He was a big bad
dude.
Was a unit. Alonzo Mourning, Georgetown, big bad enforcer, tough guy. And when you see these guys throw, you can't believe that. Maybe they've never been in a fight in their lives. That's what it looked like. I'm sure they have.
Always looking like that. I thought you was going to bring up Alonzo in one of the Rodman fights that he had. That he was just swinging like I didn't know what he was. I'm like, what's he swinging at?
These guys were fighting from, I don't know, maybe 3 feet away. You know what I mean? Like maybe the wind was going to knock him over from one of the. But the Van Gundy thing, I can't believe Van Gundy can even get on TV.
He still talks about it. I watched some NBA games this past season. I've
never seen a dude. Like, even now, if you asked if they were like, all right, man, I know we got to revisit this again. But why did you grab his leg? Like, what did you think you were going to do? You're like 5'7", 165. What were you going to do? Just, make him walk slower? Like, what was the plan there? And it was his guy.
I'm going to listen in next time he talks about that because he mentioned why he was on the leg or something, and I forgot why. But he brought that up the last time when I was watching a game this past season.
A real one would have jumped on the other dude's back and tried to get him to a sleeper, right?
Yeah, but I think
you wouldn't koala your own team, your own
he
guys.
couldn't jump up that high. He was already, like you said, 5'7". You got Alonzo Mourning, who's like 6'10", 6. He's 7-footer, and then
He
Larry
could have gone
Johnson,
Master
he's
Blaster. He
6'9".
could have gone up on his shoulders and gone Master Blaster.
Oh
like
my God, Thunderdome. Oh man, that's funny right there. Those are some good ones. But yeah, Malice of Battle is definitely number one. That one has some classic things that were I couldn't believe I was seeing happen in a pro venue. I knew then that if this happened on a football field, it's going to be some damage done, because even though like the guys wasn't even really connecting, we are another breed. Like we already in fisticuffs between the O-line and D-line, and then picking up blitzes with linebackers. So we already know how to do close engagement encounters. So if somebody did that at a football game and a player ran up in the stands, somebody's gonna get it.
Ron Artest, until this year, Ron Artest was for me the best player celebration guy in the history of the NBA. I remember when he won the NBA Finals with the Lakers, I think he was spotted 72 hours later in a nightclub still wearing his uniform. Like he never went home. Like he just went for it the whole time. And Tom Brady had some funny moments with the trophy, like playing for the trophy. But it was nowhere. I mean, he had clearly gone home and showered, right? Jack Grealish is the Man City guy. They just won the Champions League.
Oh, soccer.
Jack Grealish had a Ron Artest like deal, but Ron always, I was just always amazed by his ability to party after that finals. And then I was in LA. And I got on I was like, at a workout place. I got on a treadmill, and I was pretty decent size then.
Right.
And I remember Ron Artest got on, and it was like the first time where I was like, oh, NBA players are the best built humans on the planet. Like we really are nothing, because I thought Ron Artest was like an average size. Like
they're tall.
He's a big shouldered guy, and like he's a good looking guy. But but I don't think of Ron Artest being like this 6'9", 250-pound or whatever. Ron Artest's shoulders were like twice as wide as mine. He just looked like he was a perfectly built human. I was like, oh, well, you know what I did? I got off the goddamn treadmill, AG, because I don't want to be part of it. That's what I did.
You didn't want to be next to him.
Nope. It's like the same thing. I saw Mike Tyson run a treadmill one time. You know what I did? I went over to the squat rack. I was like, get me out.
You know what?
I just see Tyson's over there, fat. Running, he ran for an hour straight, and he was fat. He didn't even bother him. He was like, I mean, he was running too. He wasn't slow jogging. He was running for an hour straight, fat.
I would have stayed there. I'm the glutton for punishment, I guess. I would have stayed there and talked to him.
You can't talk. He was breathing heavy.
I would have waited till after the workout.
Here's what happened with the Tyson one. I went 2 days in a row. He was there both days. I'm never starstruck. You know me. I never get starstruck.
Right.
I was so starstruck by Mike Tyson because I grew up. When I grew up, Mike Tyson was the biggest thing in the world.
Yep, me too.
I was so starstruck, I couldn't keep my eyes off him. I hurt my back squatting. 2 days later, I went back. He was there. I hurt my back deadlifting because I couldn't focus. I would be looking at him in the mirror when I'm supposed to be looking at my form.
Right.
I would be looking at him in the mirror over like this, squatting, and then
Oh, no. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. It was okay.
AG, good show, man. Where can we find you?
Man, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter and AmonGreen30, all one word, and also the Gamers Lounge on TikTok and YouTube and Twitch. AmonGreen TV and AmonGreen's Gamers Lounge. Check us out there, please. Excellent. Mike, let everybody know where they can find you out on the social.
MikeWall68, Twitter, Process to Perform, Instagram. Check this show on YouTube, /Process to Perform, or just type in on my blog. Podcast is everywhere you get your podcasts. If you're an audio listener, I highly recommend you watch the video, because then you can see AG every day. Guns are getting bigger. He's getting back into fighting shape. I understand what's going on.
You
was trying to show me up on this, dude.
It's training camp, man. It's training camp. Look, it's all sweat. It's all sweaty.
If that was me, man, I would put that every day. I just put it in the dryer, like extra hot, right before I get on.
He said extra.
I try to do something. I just got one of those Compex machines, because my shoulder's so bad. I got a Compex machine.
Yeah.
But you know what you do? It looks like you did push-ups or something like that. That's all. It's like I'm just cheating myself.
I was going to ask you, how the shoulders been? They always been bad, right?
Ever since that surgery, yeah.
Oh, man.
But life goes on, my friend.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.